Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
And it is Correspondent week. When we announced the lineup, this correspondent said 13's unlucky for some, but not for him, I hope. James, episode 13, who do we have?
We have the brilliant Migtavius, our Crystal Palace correspondent. How are you, Mig?
Hi, guys. I won't say good morning and good evening because I always get that wrong. Good morning.
For the benefit of those who are only on the audio rather than watching on YouTube, Mig is wearing the light green Crystal Palace goalkeeper shirt. And he's one of the only people I know in the world who could pull that off and still look okay.
I struggle to pull it off nowadays.
Put it off.
Start again. Mig, what a summer for Palace. I guess we should start with Roy Hodgson and your thoughts on him finishing up, because to be honest, all the time I've spoken about you, we've spoken about Roy so much and transitioning to a plan when eventually he would go. That succession plan is now happening. What do you want to say about Roy?
Well, immediately things. Thanks for he came in at a very. It was quite a worrying time when he came in. We were looking quite like we were gonna drop out the league. We weren't winning games. We were having to rely on people like Big Sam. And he came in, he steadied the ship, got some good players in. It helped that he was a local boy, man.
His club, isn't it?
Yeah, he was there as a youth, so that immediately adhered into the fans, and he steadied the ship, kept us going. It got a bit stale towards the end, but then he done the job that the board wanted him to do. He kept us in the league, kept us mid-table, kept the money ticking over, and although some fans would probably say he overstayed his welcome by probably like a year or so, I don't think he overstayed it, and he left pretty much on his terms. He got us safe and then was like, yeah, okay, I think I'll stop now. It took a while for the new plan to come into fruition. I think it was a good month and a bit before we'd even signed a new manager, not through the lack of trying. Some of them 99% signed up before they got a better deal somewhere else in London.
I knew no Espirito Santo. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
but I think when it all started with the rumors and stuff, and I didn't see Vieira anywhere near all of them. It was always Eddie Howe, Frank Lampard, and then Espirito Santo came in, and then there was Favre, and then Vieira just sort of happened really quickly. I mean, he was doing punditry at the Euros, and when he first came in, I saw people go like, "Oh, he hasn't really, been tested that much. He done all right at Nice. He didn't really do much in New York." But then I always said to people, I was more excited that he had worked with the Man City youth team and done quite well there, because that's what we're going to have to do. We're getting rid of all these 30-year-olds and hopefully bringing in more youngsters that could be there for several years to build a club back up, a more exciting club, but a youthful legs rather than being at the top of the table for having the oldest squad in the league for the last 5 years or something like that. So that was more the thing that excited me more, which is shown through the signings that we've had within the last month or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on Nuno, it's worth saying, he was basically in agreement with Palace. The reason the talks fell through was because he thought he was getting the Everton job, not the Tottenham job. But he bombed in his interview with Everton, and then the Tottenham job came up afterwards. Is the story? But we did a bit of research on this. Palace first spoke to Vieira back in April, so it wasn't something that completely came from nowhere. They first spoke to him in April, and Vieira was aware that he was in the running, but was never first choice. He's come out and openly admitted that since, and went, "Not bothered. I know I wasn't first choice. I've got an opportunity. I need to prove myself." Yeah. And it almost feels like that's what Palace need at the moment. Someone who's come in and it's not just a For Nuno, it might have been a Wolves to a Palace, and you're staying within a job. For Vieira, he's hungry to get in there and do the business. And obviously, if he proves to be a manager or anything like he was as a player, you obviously do very well. Were you happy with the appointment when you heard?
When I first said, yeah, because I thought I was a bit like, "Ooh, okay, we'll go with this," because of the work of the youth and stuff. I mean, I know we had the whole De Boer thing was kind of like, oh, a new manager, younger manager, and it kind of bombed quite a bit. But I'd hope, having learnt from that, and still keep it. I know we released quite a few players, but we've still got a core amount of players. Basically, we've got Wilf, so it should be all right. But I was quite happy with the signing, especially like you were saying, he's spent so much time in the Premier League that he's got a reputation to keep as well. And we're not gonna, if he does well, we're not expecting to keep him for like the next 10, 20 years or something to build a dynasty. If he's really got to prove himself at Al to hopefully get that big move, to maybe like a dream move to Arsenal, or
well, Man City when Man City left, when Vieira left New York City, Man City were quite disappointed because obviously they're associated as part of the City group, and they very much had it in plan that over a longer period he was possibly going to be part of their succession plan to be their manager at some stage. He's obviously gone and done bits in France. He hasn't pulled up any major trees, but he's done okay. And exactly that, unlike Frank de Boer, Vieira's obviously well connected with the league. He was even being linked with Daniel Ek's possible takeover consortium to take over Arsenal. So, I mean, he's obviously not going to be a part of that now. That would be really weird.
He's a winner, right?
Or no, unless he's at Palace for 2 months and Daniel Ek buys Arsenal and he goes, by the way, Vieira's taking over Arsenal now.
Vieira's a winner. When I look at Vieira, I think the one thing is, even when I look at a similar mould, is Steven Gerrard going up to Rangers as a manager. I didn't know what his credentials were or not, but there's one thing bloody minded, they want to win, right? He just wants to win. So if he does nothing else but install a winning mentality and a bit of steel, then that's going to go a long way. And that's why what you're saying, I think, whilst it's not exciting, maybe, or what you thought, is someone you can definitely get behind.
Yeah,
I think the people say, you know what, I didn't see this coming, but I'm going to get behind it and I'm going to support it, and hopefully it can work out. And I think it's a good appointment. I'm really actually excited to see what he can do in management in the Premier League.
And I'm hoping that the sort of player that he was, he was the grit in the Arsenal midfield. He was the one getting into fights with Roy Keane. He's going to know that the players are going to have that, rather than having someone who is more of a flair player, maybe someone like Lampard, who's maybe a little bit softer, as a player, who won't grind that into the players, especially the young ones that are going to maybe not have that in their game yet.
Yeah, and it's been a summer of clear out and get players in. The other thing I think I'm really impressed with is when you have a philosophy on the type of players you want to bring in, and then you stick to it. Because so often, I've seen it at my club, I've seen it at others, it's a scattergun approach to the transfer window. Who can we get our hands on? Let's fill this hole. Let's plug this hole. Let's do this, that, and the other, and get whatever we can. Whereas you have a philosophy of younger, up-and-coming talent from the lower leagues in all reserve teams with, Conor Gallagher's kind of sort of Chelsea, but not, if you know what I mean. So you stuck with that philosophy. And I think that it's always really refreshing to see quite often with clubs when they set out a strategy and stick to it and don't then just deviate to shitting the bed and getting what they can, really.
Yeah, I saw someone comment on Twitter saying, "Oh, Palace making all of these signings, they're not going to gel, just like Fulham did when they bought like 10 players and then went straight down." It's like, yeah, but we
4 players.
Yeah, that's the thing. It seems like so many, but when you just write them down, we've got like 4 and a third backup goalkeeper, pretty much.
Yeah.
But we've gone for young, like you say, young players that have proven themselves. We've got both of the last 2 Championship Young Players of the Year in the squad. We got the player that was man of the match in both of the playoff semi-finals, and we got a defender that was on loan to Fulham last season and was still captain of the team, and he was at the Euros. So
before we talk about some of these new additions, to get people up to date, and I think this is quite important, some notable names who've left Palace this summer, free transfer. Gary Cahill, Nathaniel Klein, Scott Dan, Wayne Hennessy, James McCarthy's just gone to Celtic just before we're recording this on the 3rd. Mamadou Sakho, Andrews Townsend, Patrick Van Arnholt, Connor Wickham.
Yeah,
gone free transfers. It's nearly a team.
Klein is still with the squad. He's still in the pre-season and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm assuming they must either have already re-signed him and not really made an official statement, or looking to re-sign him before the window closes. Because he's in pre-season. He's still on the team website and stuff like that. So I'm assuming he's re-signing.
Here's the funniest question. Do you remember back to this time last year when talking about Mitchell and Nathan Ferguson? I'm sure you do. Yeah. Has Nathan Ferguson got a price rise to 4.5 about kicking a football for a year?
His reputation, it's Vieira comes in and
still
like,
injured.
I don't know. They've done the absolute dirty on Kelly. Poor lad. He's the only defender that isn't 4.5. Poor lad.
He's got no chance. He's got no chance of starting now, has he?
Oh God, no.
Fine.
This isn't one of those ones where you're looking for 4 points.
Listen, this podcast isn't going to be how can you get 3 Crystal Palace players into game week 1 team, and that's partly because of fixtures. But obviously, the signings that's come in, you've already mentioned. Like Elise is not fit, so I think he's probably going to be out to about October, and it's part why. And Reading's financial problems, part why you've got such a good deal on him. Is very highly rated.
8 mil is ridiculous.
And honestly, if he'd have been fit for game week 1, 5.5 might have been interesting. I do not know why he's not flagged on FPL, because my understanding is he's got no chance. That is right, isn't it, Mick?
Yeah, he's. I'm not too sure what he's actually in, because some people are saying he's got a back injury.
Yeah,
someone said he's got a hairline fracture in his shoulder that it will heal by itself, but he's got to rest it. But yeah, it's going to be a good month, 6 weeks of the start of the season. You've
also bought Anderson, as you said, and to be honest, when I heard that was close, I was like, wow, because my understanding was that he was basically wanting to come to Tottenham, and Tottenham were waiting to see what other centre backs they could get, and we're looking at Anderson's fullback option. So I think Anderson's seen that Palace really wanted him and has gone and taken the plunge. Obviously familiar with London, that's helpful, having spent a year at Fulham. Mark Gay, who was on loan at Swansea last year, you've got him from Chelsea, is extremely highly rated, was a big part of the England youth team that won the World Cup. Conor Gallagher, we know, is an absolute pain in the butt. Yeah, in the arse. He's a horrible footballer, but then I'm not sure Palace have had a horrible footballer in midfield for quite a while. So that helps. He's young. He'll improve. There's every chance I think that might become permanent. And the other ones, you bought a young goalkeeper, Remy Matthews from Sunderland, and Jacob Montez has been bought in as kind of a squad filler from America. It's not someone we expect.
Yeah, he's already gone out on loan.
He's gone
off to Belgium.
So you've only got 4 players in. People acting like you exactly that. Like you've bought 10 players, you've sponged loads of money, you've spent not a lot.
About 35 mil.
When you factor in what you spent transfer wise and what you've got off the book, wages. I mean, the amount you must be saving on wages from getting rid of people like Gary Cahill and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, because Cahill was one of the ones I wanted to keep, but apparently his wage demands were more than he was already on or something like that. And I think for a 34-year-old, they probably made the right decision not to bank that for another year.
The problem is the fixtures. And before I ask you how many Palace players you've got in your draft, I take it you've done an FPL draft, Mick.
I have done a draft. I did it a couple of days after it was launched, and I have not looked at it since.
Fine. If I said to you, log in, I'd want to know how many
of the video.
Thanks, mate.
It's just an all blue team. I just had a laugh.
How many Chelsea players?
Benteke's up front. 3, because there's not many people with blue shirts, so they had to go in. I'm not even sure.
Do you think you'll start with any Chelsea players? There's a reason why I'm asking that.
I think maybe Havertz is probably the only one I'd really look at. I haven't really thought about Chelsea before, to be really honest.
You don't have to. It's not your club.
Well, yeah, I know.
The reason I say that is Chelsea have got a dog's dinner of a fixture list to start with, but they've got you first. So I was interested to know if Chelsea players still appeal to you with that in mind. The fact simply they've got you first. Does that appeal?
I don't know, because we had the start of the last season we had a bit of a dodgy one, but then we beat Southampton on the first day and we beat United in the second game. I mean, in game week 4, Chelsea stuffed us 4-0, which obviously could happen. But I think if you're gonna have a big team, you might as well have them the first game where, you know, they might still be a bit cold. The new signings might not have gelled. I mean, it's probably a little bit weird that we're going to have more new signings than Chelsea on probably game week 1.
I think that's definite.
So it'll probably be more a case of us not really gelling, but we've looked all right in pre-season so far. But
I think really importantly that I would expect Gay and Anderson that's become first choice. And I think that's the massive difference for you. Do you think that would release Chiari to play in midfield as well?
Yeah, he's got to be in the midfield. Yeah,
because he did all right. He did really well for you, I thought,
he was
under
our
the
best
circumstances last year. Yeah,
he was our best centre back, and he wasn't even a centre back. But I think, yeah, we bought them in for 18 mil, 16 mil each, whatever it was, to be the first choice.
Yeah,
centre back partnership for the good next couple of years. I mean, they've all got 5-year contracts, which was amazing to me that they all signed those. So hopefully that's a...
And they're going to strike after 2 years, mate.
Yeah, well, yeah.
The one that's notable defensively, I think, is Tyrique Mitchell, because those who've done their research have probably been reading that there is an emphasis towards getting him forward in attacking phases from left back. And obviously with Patrick Van Aanholt gone, that seems clear for him now at left back, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's no real competition now. I mean, he's got Schlupp who can play there. The young kid Hanam has been playing there during pre-season. He's played a couple of times, so he'll likely be back up. I mean, Mitchell's got the number 3 shirt, super important for a left back.
Young boy as well. It's good. It's a good son.
Yeah, and just like we said last year, he's going to have PVA, and then the last couple of months of the season he's going to play Mitchell ready for the next season. Okay, it wasn't Roy who's going to be taking him into the next season, but he's the best left back we have. He's probably one of the best, well, before the new guys came in, the best defender we had. So it's really just the attacking and providing part of his game that he needs to boost, really, and maybe some of, a bit of football brain at some points, because he can get caught out. But he's young.
You raise a good point on Schlupp, though. I hadn't considered that, because it's been quite a while since he played left back for you.
Yeah.
But different manager might have different ideas, and a lot of his career growing up was spent playing left back. And if there's an emphasis towards attacking down that side, which I presume probably means getting Zaha off the flank and a little bit more central, then that might be a role that would suit Schlupp. But it looks like Mitchell will start the season.
Yeah, it'll be Mitchell's place to lose, or in case of an injury.
Can you make, with what you've got fixtures-wise, Mig, Chelsea, Brentford, West Ham, Tottenham, Liverpool, Brighton, Leicester, Arsenal, Newcastle, Manchester City? You basically got everyone bar Man United of the bigger sides in the first 10. Can you make a case for Mitchells or Gays or Andersons? Or Gator and his save points?
He's only 4.5 now. He's had that big drop from 5 mil, which made him a lot more appealing. I mean, obviously, there's teams like Watford and Brighton who have a lot better fixtures. The clean sheet expectation is probably not going to be high. We'll probably get a couple, maybe 3 from that lot. But even teams like Brentford, I mean, when you're coming up against Ivan Toney, you're probably not expecting a clean sheet. So I
got Brighton in there, XG Kings.
And Newcastle, Callum Wilson. He doesn't want reminding about that one either.
Well, Joe Linton, that's probably worse. Jeez.
You and me and Joe Linton, we met a good team.
Overhead kicking and just leave. No, I'd say if you're going cheaper at the back and 4.5, then fine. I'll probably say with either the guy didn't score anything last season for Swansea. He got plenty of clean sheets. I think it's like 17 or something like that. But so Anderson, of the 2 centre backs, is probably the better attacking threat. I think he's a bit taller as well. But Mitchell would probably be a standout one, because I'm not too sure we'd play right back. I think, because we've re-signed Ward and probably going to re-sign Klein. I'm not too sure who he's going to.
Nathan Ferguson's finally going to make an appearance, mate. 1 year too late.
Big comeback in 2022. He's going on tour.
Could Kelly play right back?
He can. He won't.
I mean, no, I know he can. Is it a possibility?
I don't think so. Having re-signed Ward, I don't think Kelly then goes ahead of him.
Nah, definitely not. You're right. Let's talk about Wilf a little bit, because it wouldn't be a Palace podcast if we didn't. 7 million midfielder. Thoughts?
Yeah, why not? I mean, who else you got around that price? No one.
Loads.
Absolutely no one.
That's the only problem, isn't it?
It's just far too much choice there nowadays. It's just rock bottom prices. Well, I said last year, no, I wouldn't go for him for the start. Few games, wouldn't touch it, see how he settles in, stuff like that. And then he went and bagged a brace at Old Trafford, and I bought him in and ended up triple captaining by the end of the season. So
what game did you do that in? You had returns off him, didn't you?
36. I did write it down.
Sugar.
We had the double game week. He got me, game week 35. He got me 12.
Sheffield United and Southampton.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Was it just like a 5-pointer or something? What was that?
He got me 12, so we got 4 points. He got an assist.
Okay, I thought you meant 12 tripled up to 36 for a second there.
He can't have only got you the assist. I think he must have got booked, assist, and another 2-pointer. He must have, because it was double, wasn't it? In 35.
Yeah, but I think he got a yellow card in the second game, so he only got 1 point. Because I got 12 points.
It didn't work out anyway. Oh.
No. I got a return, which is fine.
Yeah. Is he still, could you consider him OOP? Is he going to play up top rather than in midfield or wide?
Well, they've been playing more of a 4-3-3 in pre-season, so he'd probably be out on the left and then having Benteke or even Mateta up front. Mateta's been having the time during pre-season. Obviously, Benteke's been laid back for the Euros. But I would imagine that's probably the way they're going to go in the season. So I'd imagine he'd be out on the left and then having 3 in the middle, which probably be Weideveld, Gallagher, and maybe MacArthur or something like that.
Chiarte moving back in there, isn't he? Possibly. Gallagher. Did you say Gallagher?
Yeah,
Gallagher will play.
Gallagher.
Yeah.
Another.
Gallagher will definitely
play the point, I think.
Gallagher's
until
not an option at 5.5. MacArthur's one, when he plays, he's always been one who breaks into the box. 4.5. We're not now. Don't start that conversation, James. No. I think front three with what's available, because obviously Elise's injury and Eze, we think unfortunately is going to be out to kind of Christmas times gutting. We spoke after that Sheffield United game, Suj, didn't we? And I spoke about Eze converting into a midfielder, and this formation that Vieira wants to play will help that, I think, which would make him a less of an FPL asset when he is eventually fit. But I think with what you've got at the moment, I'd see that being Benteke central, Zaha left, Ayew right.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, there's a right winger would probably be something that I would want to bring in, and maybe another left back to work behind Mitchell. But I think having lost Townsend, it's pretty much Ayew. We've got Scott Banks, who scored in 2 of the preseason games now, a worldie of a free kick. He can play out on the right. Obviously, Wilf can play out the right, and Schlupp can play the left. We got a young kid, Rob Street, who's been playing out on the wing as well. He's been doing quite well with Mateta. But yeah, probably until Eze and Elise come back, it'll be Wilf and Ayew, which Ayew can do a job out there, but he probably wouldn't be my first choice as a regular right winger.
No, you definitely wouldn't be picking Jordan Ayew at 6. Were you surprised when you saw Benteke at 6.5?
Not after his end of season form.
No, he did end it well.
He was one of the form players in the league. That pretty much got him a new contract. Otherwise, he probably would have been out the door with the rest of them.
Was that why he was in form, Mick?
Yes. Because he'd done it the season before and the season before that. Didn't do anything, and then he scores against Arsenal, gets a new contract. Doesn't do anything. It
wasn't a late run to try and go and learn from Lukaku in the Belgian squad in the summer as well.
Oh, he always does.
Understudy.
Yeah. Oh, he always does that. Yeah. He always gets called up and then watches Lukaku score a goal.
What you're saying is don't buy Christian Benteke, right?
It's a shout. A shout I would do, maybe not.
No,
It's a shout.
I don't.
Depends
think
how
so.
brave you are.
Well, wait and see. If he kicks into form and he's on a roll and you guys look in good form, then it's very easy to get to, but it's not one to start with, right?
Yeah. Plus,
a lot of people are up for starting with Ivan Toney at 6.5. If Brentford don't adapt to the Premier League and you don't have any money and he's doing okay, fine. It's just easy to get to rather than needing to start with to see where it goes.
Plus I don't think he's played any pre-season so far, so whether or not he even starts game week 1 or 2, and he may just go with Mateta as he's got the minutes and he's finally scored a goal since his legendary goal at Brighton.
I think the only one I could consider starting with is Gator, purely on the shock value of if he kept a couple of clean sheets in some of them bigger games that you didn't expect, he might well rock away with the bonus and stuff with it.
Oh yeah,
but you're not expecting it. I mean, when you actually break down them first 10 fixtures, the home games are Brentford, Tottenham, Brighton, Leicester, and Newcastle. So Leicester and Tottenham obviously not the easiest. I've no doubt you'll give us a game, Mig. But the pressure on those Brentford, Brighton, Newcastle games, considering you've got Chelsea away, West Ham away, Liverpool away, Arsenal away, and Man City away, the pressure on those 3 games is pretty big. So as good as we're kind of putting it together and saying, evolving and building a good squad, like if that opening period goes horribly wrong, you're in massive trouble.
Yeah, it could be De Boer all over again. You could very
I don't
easily
think it will be, but it could be.
No, I don't think we'll go 7 games without scoring and losing every one of them.
You definitely won't go 7 games without scoring, mate. You've got Christian Benteke.
Well, yeah. I mean,
there's definitely going to be pressure on that Brentford game. If
especially if the game week 1 doesn't. If we don't perform against Chelsea, and then we lose to Brentford, the fans will turn very quickly.
It puts the pressure on then ahead of a couple of London derbies, which won't be easy either. West Ham, Tottenham. I mean, so you start with 4, don't you? Chelsea, Brentford, West Ham, Tottenham. You start with 4 London derbies. It's very unusual.
We don't travel very far.
I don't think of Brentford as a London derby because we don't play them often, obviously. But you wouldn't expect anything from Chelsea. Then, the pressure will be on that Brentford game. Off the other side of them 4 derbies, you go to Anfield.
And then it's the real derby after that.
And winning at Anfield is easy.
Start with 4 London derbies, and the real derby's not till game week 6. Yeah, I love it, Suj. The rivalry.
The rivalry.
The Brighton rivalry. We're never going to do that podcast. It's just not worth it. We baited it too much. Sam's on next, by the way, as well.
Poor Sam made him cry with that tweet.
Did he really? Mig was tweeting that he was above Brighton in the table because Brighton's on next on Correspondent. On the other side of City, though, if you're going to hang in there, I honestly think if you get to game week 10 and are outside the bottom 3 or 4, I actually think that's a good start because of what you've got. It's rough. But then obviously, because of the way you start, it does turn quite nice. From Wolves, Burnley,
it does turn a bit more green.
11, 12. There's some greens in there, and I think unless you're starting with Gator as probably a part of 2 rotating 4.5 million goalkeepers might be an idea. I'll be honest, I've not looked at Palace's rotation, but you probably only want to use him for 2, 6, and 9s. You're looking for a rotation off of those fixtures. If that works, then you could start with him. Otherwise, Zaha has got a little bit of ownership. No one else is being touched in this. The only other player who's got any ownership base is Martin Kelly, and it's because it's 4.0. So I think if you don't start with Palace players like Gato, you're not even going to go back and look till game week 11 unless someone like Zaha was in red hot form. And I mean going big, scoring every week, basically.
Yeah. No one owns us. So if you triple up on Palace and we bang, straight to the top.
Differential FC.
It's sound strat.
You've got the bright idea, Mig. What do you realistically expect from the season? Do the hopes and expectations change now?
I'm not too sure if the expectations have changed because it's brand new. You can't put too much. You can't say, okay, now we're going to be a European challenging side. You got to have the realism that they're going to have to settle in. Vieira, the first game for Vieira is going to be massive for him. A few of the players don't really have Premiership experience. So I think the expectation is probably around where we were, maybe creeping top 10. If we can challenge for 9th, 10th, 11th rather than 14th, 15th, 16th, I think that'll probably be more of a successful season, and then pushing on for the following one. It's more the atmosphere around the club. I mean, just myself, I think the start of July, I was basically saying it was embarrassing that we didn't have a manager. 10 players turned up for the first training session. That's all we had. And then the following day we signed Vieira. I'm not saying it was, utterly coincidental, is what I'm saying. But since then, we've made 4-5 good signings. Atmosphere has completely changed. Everyone's feeling a lot more optimistic about it. The future is looking brighter as long as it goes well. If it goes badly,
is there no fear then of the drop at all?
There's always a fear of going down, because once you go down, I mean, those young signings could then be pinched by bigger teams. You wouldn't. You like to think they wouldn't, being on this 5-year contract.
Yeah. I think. I mean, I'm looking at it from an outsider's kind of point of view, not as a fan, thinking you definitely are in a better place than you were at this time a year ago. And it's nice to see that the squad's refreshed and younger and more forward thinking. But getting younger players in is a risk, doesn't guarantee success. So it's almost like if the worst was to happen and you do go down, you're in a better position to come straight back up than you would have been if it happened last season when you had all these old players and you'd have really had to rebuild. So I think there is still a bit of a risk that it doesn't quite gel straight away because they are young players and need time to adapt, and you could be in a bit of a dogfight. But if the worst was to happen, because the club is in a better place, because you've got younger, fresher talent, you could come straight back up. That's the kind of way I see where you are. And the interesting thing with Palace from last year is you get the points when we don't expect it. You're always the club that win the games that I don't expect and don't really when you do. So you end up being safe. I mean, we talked about Hodgson at the start of the season. I think the best stat about Hodgson is once he got you out of the relegation zone, he never went back in.
Never went back
and
in.
That was that's incredible. And I don't even want to say for a club of your size, but with the restraints financially and stuff, incredible managerial record. But I just think it's the big results that you manage to get, like winning at United and whatever else, that keep you out of the relegation zone, not the ones in and around you always necessarily. So I still have a little bit of outside fear, short term, but probably more optimism long term.
It would have been completely different if we had got relegated last season and then had to rebuild, because we wouldn't have been able to attract bigger names to the club. We wouldn't have signed any of those players. Probably financially, we would have been down in the muck. So we probably wouldn't have then come back up. But if worst comes to the worst and they don't gel and we're in a dogfight for the whole season and unfortunately lose out, then I think with them all being on 5-year contracts and buying into the way of thinking that the club would be to push forward and stuff, I'd hope that they would, and since most of them have championship experience now, that they would be able to bring us straight back up. But I'm
and look at Norwich, Watford, Bournemouth. They didn't get raided last year, so I don't see that happening.
Bournemouth did.
Well, Callum Wilson, Ryan Fraser. Who else left there?
Aki.
Yeah, that was
Ramsdale.
a bizarre one to go to Man City.
But to be fair, Ryan Fraser refused to play during lockdown, didn't he? So that's a little bit different.
Yeah. But then they also kept a lot of players at Bournemouth as well.
I
think if you'd have gone down this summer, Mig, would have been a disaster.
Brutal.
Yeah,
it would have been. I would not be as smiley as I am.
The one benefit is there would have been other players, like you're saying, Joe Ward signed on again, who's obviously been with the club, I think 10 years or so now. Joe Ward,
10th year,
Benteke wouldn't have signed on again. So in terms of clearing the wages, wouldn't have been too bad. But then to try and build the squad from basically brand new and then in the championship, because Elise's probably not moving from Reading to Palace in the Championship, for example.
No.
Eze be going, Zaha be going, Gator be going, even possibly like Mitchell would be going and stuff. You really would be completely starting again. It would have been a disaster. And I think it's a fair point you make, Suj, that should the worst happen, then yeah, the club's beginning to, we've spoken about this ever since we started speaking to you, Mig. This evolution's got to happen at some stage. The irony, probably the scariest thing for you is every year we've spoke to you pre-season, I've said to you, I'm worried for you. And I'm not this year. The only thing that worries me is that start, the fixtures. It's fucking brutal.
Yeah.
And you could find where you're in a catch-up position. But I think even if you came out of that run, the first 10 games, and if you're pushing close to a point per game, you know, if you win those 3 green fixtures, if you will, that'll do. Yeah. That'll do from the start to keep you kind of head above water to start with, and then push on, get Elise fit, get to Christmas, get Eze fit. I mean, it's a really exciting team. It's got, when you look through it, it's got so much energy and vibrancy suddenly, which I think has started with bringing Eze in, who's a wonderful footballer. Yeah.
I think he was like player of the season last year.
He's such a shame. Such a good footballer.
It was just heartbreaking straight at the end of the season. He's just out for, I think he's out until the new year.
Yeah.
Something like that.
He'll struggle to play in 2021.
Yeah. So hopefully if we can set ourselves up in the first half of the season, then hopefully we can push on, because we tend to have quite a slow start, and then we do all right coming up to Christmas, and then we'll have a blip. Like in last season we had a blip of like 6 games where we didn't win, and then we kind of and then the end of the season we finished off all right. So I'm thinking as long as we can hold on to ourselves in the first half of the season, stay in that mid-table or mid of the lower half of the table, I should say. And then hopefully in the second half of the season, we can push on a bit further towards getting a top half finish. I mean, that season where we lost the first 7 games and was rock bottom, we still came back from that and we still stayed up. So, you know, a start really can't, well, touch wood, start really can't get much worse than that. And we've survived from it.
I want to say when Tony Pulis came in, and it was the first, was it the first year you were back up?
Yeah,
for me and Holloway.
Holloway, yeah.
And you have like 4 points from the first 10 or something.
Yeah, it was.
We're kind of looking at that some sort of period. Yeah, if you win 3 games like that, boom, you're out of it, right?
Yeah, especially if like Man United last season, we could get destroyed by Chelsea, but we win away in Man United. And the team's lifted again. Well,
with Zaha, like if he has a good day away from home, like genuinely, you're capable of going to West Ham in game week 3 and winning, for example. Definitely, you're definitely capable of beating my team in game week 4.
Well, yeah, you know, as long as all your players turn up.
Thanks, Mig.
Well, you're still on holiday.
Who's next, Suj?
We're going down the M23.
Is it the M23? Is that what they call the derby? The M23?
The M23 and then the A23.
I thought it was like some A-road derby. I didn't think it was a motorway derby.
I started digging a little bit a while ago into this and started reading about this Alan Mullery and Terry Venables.
Fucking boring.
Then Mullery throwing money
really
at the Palace fans. It seems a little bit...
it started as a one-on-one thing and it just evolved into a...
Everyone to everyone.
Yeah. a playground argument. Who was it, Nick? Was it Brighton decided seagulls after, or was it Palace decided eagles?
Yeah, Brighton went seagulls because they're by the sea and it sounds like eagles, which was the...
I mean, to be fair, seagulls does work. If you've been to Brighton, it does make sense.
It's brilliant branding and great bants. You know, it's only really posh when I said that.
Yes, we're going from the Eagles to the Seagulls. We'll be joined by FPL Seagull talking about Brighton and Hove Albion. We find out if any of the assets that we all want in game week 1 are actually going to be fit enough to make it. Brighton next with FPL Seagull.
Indeed. And Mick, just a reminder to the listeners where they can find you on Twitter at
Migtavius, Migtavius. There's no O. There's no O.
There's no O.
There is no O, indeed. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Correspondent Week. We still have 7 episodes to go. 7 or 6, whatever it may be. 7. That is it. So make sure wherever you listen to the podcast, you are subscribed, got the notification bell going, etc., etc. And if you want to support the podcast, head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. There's a load of blurb there that tells you everything about what you can get. Stay safe.
My salesman, Mig.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a cut.
I'll give you one. Thanks,
Affiliate
Mig.
link incoming.
Cue music, please, man, child.